All right, good evening. We are going to go ahead and get started. We're going to call our meeting to order. It's August 11th, 2022, and we're going to call the meeting to order at 6:02 p.m. Dr. Thomas, if you would conduct roll call.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Gallagher,
Here.
Ms. Hensley, Ms. Davis, Dr. Yeager,
Here.
Dr. Dykeman,
Here.
Dr. Anderson, Dr. Gant,
Here.
Ms. Hull, Dr. Maddox.
Here.
Okay, wonderful. So we do have a quorum. We are going to move forward to item 3, and this is our pledge and silent meditation. If you would, just join us for a moment of silence first. Okay, thank you. And if you're able, if you would stand and join us in the pledge. All right, thank you. So we are going to move forward to number 2, and these are our recognitions and awards. Dr. Thomas.
Thank you, Dr. Gant. At this time, we have Dr. Cindy Moore for our first set of recognitions, and then we will have our principal introductions by Mr. Gaskins.
Thank you, Dr. Thomas, and good evening, Dr. Gant and board members. My name is Cindy Moore, and I'm very excited to be completing my 4th week with Clark County School District. These past few weeks have been extremely busy, and I've been able to see firsthand the amazing teachers, staff, and students that comprise our district. We'd like to recognize some of those individuals tonight. First, next slide, thank you. We'd like to recognize Amy Rourke, CCSD's Director of School Nursing, who this summer was named the 2022 Georgia School Nurse Administrator of the Year by the National Association of School Nurses. Ms. Rourke attended the NASN conference in Atlanta in July, where she received the award and had the chance to shine the light on CCSD's school health success to other school health leaders from around the country. So if you know Amy, you know she's not one to ever want to brag about herself, but we wanted to tell you a little bit about her and highlight her work, the work she does with her amazing team of school nurses across all of our campuses. Ms. Rourke has been a nurse for 19 years and started with CCSD as a school nurse during the 2015-2016 school year. The next year, she became Director of School Nursing for the district and has overseen the expansion of the district's nursing staff to 1 nurse stationed at each school at all times during the school day. She was instrumental in helping guide the district's COVID-19 mitigation efforts with the health and safety of our students and staff always at the forefront of her mind. And she has led the charge to expand community health resources in the district. In 2018, she helped open the first school-based health center in Northeast Georgia, the Hillsman Health Center, and CCSD has also partnered in the planned opening this fall of the new Clark Middle Health Center, which will provide health services for students and staff at Alps Road Elementary and Clark Middle Schools and their families. Along with her latest award, Ms. Rourke was the recipient of the Howard B. Stroud Community Service Award from the Foundation for Excellence in Public Education in Clark County. She serves as Georgia State Director to the National Association of School Nurses Board of Directors, has served on the board of the Georgia Association of School Nurses, and is also a member of the Athens-Clark County Board of Health. But most of all, she wanted us to know that in her time with the district, she is most proud of the fact that all students in Clark County now have access to a school nurse every day. She writes, "When I started in 2015, we had 12 nurses serving 21 schools. Now we have a full-time nurse every day in every school. I'm also extremely proud of the amazing CCSD school nursing team. They are rock stars. Please join me in congratulating Amy Rourke and thanking her for her commitment and dedication to our school district and the health of our community. We'd like to present her with the certificate and invite her up to say a few brief words. Thank you. Amy?
Thank you very much. That was way too much recognition, but I appreciate it and I'm honored, and I will just say I love my job. I love the students we work with. I love my colleagues that I work with, and I'm very proud and honored to be a CCSD school nurse. And I will take this privilege of the podium to say that the dentist is open at the Hillsman Health Center, and it is amazing. Dr. Nelms has a full schedule, and if you have students in your schools that need dental care, that is a great option and resource. I had the privilege also of touring the new facility for the Clark Middle Health Center today, which is in a modular unit located right between Alps and Clark Middle, and it's going to be wonderful as well. And I am so excited that services should be starting there within the coming weeks. So thank you all very much.
For our last item tonight, we'd like to recognize 12 of our students, 2 of whom graduated in May, who will represent CCSD, Cedar Shoals High School, and Coyle Middle School as national finalists in the 2022 National FFA Agri-Science Fair. National Agri-Science Fair participants are FFA members in grades 7 to 12 who were selected as a winner in their state's Agri-Science Fair. The participants must conduct a scientific research project pertaining to the agriculture and food science industries and present their findings to a panel of judges with a display and a report. National finalists, those whose projects are ranked among the top 10 in the country, are selected in 6 different categories and 6 different divisions to compete for National Agri-Science Fair awards. The students will present their projects virtually to judges in September, and award winners will be announced on stage in October during the National FFA Convention and Expo in Indianapolis, Indiana. Please join me in congratulating the national finalists from CCSD. They are, from Cedar Shoals High School, Amelia Hembre, Delilah McElnon, Derek Brown, who graduated in May, Nizia Ortez, Marilyn Cruz Morales, Ashley Mariquin Gonzalez, Jamaria Finley, who also graduated in May, and from Coyle Middle School, Sylvia Britton, Catherine Smith, Patricia Rodriguez Gonzalez, now a 9th grader at Cedar Shoals, Dariana Smith, who is now a 9th grader at Cedar Shoals, Chibozo Emigwan, who is now a 9th grader at Cedar Shoals. Dr. Thomas, that concludes our recognitions for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Dr. Gant, board members, and Dr. Thomas. I have the great honor to introduce our principals and assistant principals here in the Clark County School District. We know that teachers have the greatest impact on students, and right after that, we know it is our school leaders. So I will read the name of the school leader. We'll ask them to stand so you can put a face with the name. Alps Elementary School, Dr. Melanie James, and principal, and assistant principal, Rayson Matthews. Barnett Shoals Elementary, principal Allison Nobles, and assistant principal Sabrina Lumpkin. Barrow Elementary, Dr. Ellen Sabatini, principal, and assistant principal Jennifer Leahy. Chase Elementary, Principal Tracy Neal, and Assistant Principal Matthew Snow. Cleveland Road Elementary, Principal Lindsay Chatham, and Assistant Principal, new to us, Assistant Principal Becky Wagner. Fowler Drive Elementary, Principal Pam Garcia, and Assistant Principal Brad George. Gaines Elementary, Principal Dr. Luther McDaniel, and Assistant Principal Candace Holt. J.J. Harris Elementary, Dr. Beverly Harper, Principal, and Assistant Principal Melissa Ellard. Oglethorpe Elementary, Principal Dr. Bipul Singh, Assistant Principal Sandra Scott, and Principal on Special Assignment, Angela Jackson. H.B. Stroud Elementary, Principal Dr. Stacy Carson, Assistant Principal Danielle Harris. Timothy Elementary, Principal Mr. Cedric Payne, Assistant Principal Ms. Amy Hill. Whit Davis Elementary, Principal Dr. Dan McGuire, Assistant Principal Dr. Katie Hanks. Whitehead Elementary, Principal April Braswell, Assistant Principal Omar Curry, and Assistant Principal Bylan Swift. Winterville Elementary, Principal Dr. Carletha Pearson. You said what? New Principal Dr. Carletha Pearson, and Assistant Principal Kayla Jordan. Our middle school leaders. Bernie Harris Lyons Middle School, Principal Dr. Makiba Clark. She's a celebrity. Assistant Principal Annie Thurman, and and Assistant Principal Charlotte Lester. Clark Middle, Principal Dr. Amanda Gorham, Assistant Principal Christina Lurch Baston, and Assistant Principal Eric Blake. Coyle Middle School, Principal Dr. Beverly Ford, Assistant Principal Stephanie McKee, and Assistant Principal Cindy Tucker. Hillsman Middle School, Principal Cappy Douglas, Assistant Principal Nick Hussein, and Assistant Principal David Mitchell. Our high school leaders. Clark Central High School, Principal Dr. Swade Huff, Associate Principal Dr. Summer Smith, Associate Principal Dr. Cindy Lowe, Assistant Principal Latinda Dean, and Assistant Principal Tamika Henson. Cedar Shoals High School, Principal Tony Derricott, Associate Principal Dr. Melissa Perez-Rim, Associate Principal Dr. Yativia Tolbert, Assistant Principal Fabian Jones, and Assistant Principal Damian Powell. Classic City High School, Director Angelia Major. Did I say that correctly? I didn't. I've been practicing all day, I apologize. We will be approving her assistant director tonight. That will be in your addendum. Thank you. Our director of our Office of Early Learning, Karen Higginbotham. Our director of the Athens Community Career Academy, Reginald Thomas. We also will be approving the CEO for ACCA tonight. I also want to recognize our executive directors of leadership development, Dr. Jennifer Scott, Dr. Keena Worthy, and Dr. Neil Crossland. Dr. Thomas, that concludes our introductions.
Thank you, Mr. Gaskins. Thank you to all of our leaders. We know it has been a week of school, and you all have done an amazing job. And I read the email where he said we would pause briefly, so you may leave. So we will honor that so that you can prepare for the end of your week. Thank you all for being here.
All right, thank you very much. Dr. Thomas, I know that was something that we talked about earlier, the board and you, and so we are appreciative of being able to put faces to names. We are going to move forward to any board announcements. Does that conclude?
Yes, ma'am.
Are there any board announcements? The only one I'll add is we do have our new board member with us, Heidi. Welcome. We are glad to have you join us, and things will move very fast, but we are very happy to have that seat filled and look forward to working with you. All right, we are going to move forward with public comment. The only thing I have one public comment, and that is from Nicole Crenshaw. Okay. All right, and I have an original comment or commenter that's no longer commenting. Jamie, is that correct? Okay. All right, well, we will move forward to item 4, and this is to amend or adopt the agenda. The floor is open.
Madam Chair, I move that we adopt the agenda as outlined.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Dr. Maddox, and was that a second by Dr. Yeager? Okay, any conversation, discussion? All right, all in favor? Sure.
Don't or do?
What's the request?
So I thought it was going to be listed on here, but I think it's included in the personnel report.
Item 8?
No.
You
a new
said no.
position. And I can't pull up my nothing.
Okay, hold on one second. Let's see.
Bless you.
And I guess, so we won't be speaking behind the microphones. I do apologize. Can you clarify, Ms. Gallagher, the position and your concern so that everybody can hear?
Okay, I can't pull up my stuff, but it's, a position that's, I think it's being made into a chief position. I
So it's
can't
not a
see
new
anything.
position, it's the same position that was an assistant superintendent, but under previous leadership, those were moved to chiefs. It just consolidated, added additional responsibilities under it. Isn't that right, Doctor? So it's not a new position, which is why we didn't bring a new position.
Yeah. Into a new thing.
Okay. And so you had questions about those, and yes, it would not necessarily be executive session content
Right.
since it's a position and not
Okay.
a personnel
Not a
matter?
person. Right.
Yep. And so, yeah, so the agenda would be as it is. The floor is open. Well, did we have a motion and a, okay. All right. Any additional comments or questions? Okay. All in favor of adopting the agenda before us, if you would, raise your hands and say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so that motion carries 8-0. We will move forward to item 5, and this is our board president report. The only thing I will mention under there, I feel like it was one other thing the retreat. We do have what we think is the final agenda for the retreat. We'll see what happens over the next 2 weeks. Dr. Anderson will send, I know you shared it with me, I just can't, okay. Yeah, and so one of us will send that out. Not a lot changed from the last time, but just from our last discussion, a reminder, we moved some things around. One training wasn't available. If you have any questions about that, just reach out and let us know. All right, we'll move forward to the superintendent's report. Dr. Thomas?
Yes, thank you. I do not have any items today.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're going to move forward to item 7. These are our policies to be adopted, rescinded, revised, or reviewed. These were the policies that we did have some discussion around last week, and at least 1 or 2 of these we may have had discussion around earlier as well. And so I am going to open the floor for a motion for Board Policy BAC for equity.
I move that we move to adopt policy BAC equity.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second we have a motion by Ms. Hull and a second by Dr. Yeager. Any follow-up discussion, questions, or comments? All right, all in favor of adopting the board policy on equity, if you would, raise your hands and say aye. Aye. Any opposed, the same signs? Okay, carries 8-0. We'll move forward to item 2. This is our board policy IKBB, Divisive Concepts Complaint Resolution Process. The floor is open for a motion.
I move that we adopt board policy IKBB.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Hull.
Second.
All right, and second by Dr. Yeager. Any follow-up comments, questions? Okay, all in favor of approving policy IKBB, if you would, raise your hands and say aye. Any opposed, the same signs? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that motion does not carry, and that policy is not adopted. And that was an 8-0. We'll move forward to item 3. And this is the board policy on board officers. All right, and the floor is open for a motion.
I move that we adopt board policy BBA, board officers. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any follow-up questions or comments? All right, all in favor of adopting board policy BBA, if you would raise your hands and say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion carries 8-0. We'll move forward to personnel items, and this is our personnel report addendum. Dr. Thomas?
Yes, ma'am, and I did want to provide clarity that that is not a new position, but I know Ms. Gallagher has some questions about that, and there was also some communication, but you can't pull it up, that was sent out in mid-June that gave clarity around the restructuring, but that position was just never refilled after the resignation of an employee about 2.5 years ago, so it's a position that's been there. But it was not filled at that level, so that's why we didn't bring it forth for a new position approval. It's my recommendation that the personnel report and addendum be accepted and approved, Madam Chair.
Okay, all right, we have a recommendation. The floor is open for a motion.
I move that we accept the personnel report addendum, item 8.1.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any follow-up questions or comments? All right, all in favor of adopting the personnel report addendum, if you would raise your hands and say aye. Aye. All opposed, the same signs. All right. We are going to move forward with our consent agenda, and we have our 8 items that were left on the consent agenda, and so the floor is open for a motion.
I move that we adopt the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion by Ms. Hull, second by Dr. Yeager. All in favor of adopting the consent agenda, if you would raise your hands and say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. All right, so that motion carries 8-0. These are our additional action items. The first one is to approve Elevate K-12. The floor is open for a motion.
I move that we approve Elevate K-12.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Dr. Yeager, a second by Ms. Hull. Any follow-up questions? All right. All in favor of approving Elevate K-12, if you would raise your hands and say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries 8-0. We'll move forward with approving the fiscal year 23 intergovernmental agreement for Foothills. The floor is open for a motion.
I move that we approve the FY23 intergovernmental agreement for Foothills.
All right, thank you.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Hull, a second by Yeager. Any follow-up questions or comments or discussion? All right, all in favor of approving the intergovernmental agreement, if you would raise your hands and say aye. Aye. Any opposed, the same signs. Okay, carries 8-0. Item 3, this is to approve the May financial reports. The floor is open for a motion.
So moved.
Second. Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Dr. Maddox, a second by Ms. Hull. Follow-up questions or discussion? All right. All in favor of approving the May financial reports, if you would, raise your hands and say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, the same signs? Okay, carries 8-0. And we are at item 4, and this is the action to approve Dr. Robbie Hooker as the sole finalist for the position of the CCSD Superintendent. I will give just a little bit of background information that after tonight, after action is taken tonight, there will be a couple of weeks that this information will be out there, Dr. Hooker as our sole finalist, and then the board will take final action in a couple of weeks at a call meeting. I do want to say that just reiterate what has been said publicly, and that is the board is excited and looking forward to the appointment. We, in many ways, do wish at times that this could have been, there could have been more public aspects of the process, and we remain open to hearing any concerns that constituents have. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us. But I do want to reiterate that the board took this process seriously, and that the process for a search for an interim and a permanent just aligned at the same time. I do want the public to rest assured that there will be opportunities for community stakeholders, diverse communities and populations to meet, not just with the board, but with Dr. Hooker once action is taken. So I am going to open the floor for a motion.
I move that we approve Dr. Robbie Hooker as the sole finalist for the position of CCSD Superintendent.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Ms. Gallagher and a second from Dr. Maddox. Any follow-up questions or comments or discussion?
I have a comment. So I know that I'm new here, and I basically was sworn in on Monday, and I would ask the board to let me abstain from this vote because I was not a part of that process at all. It's not that I don't support him as a candidate. I've done my research. When I found out about this, I was just a mom of students at CCSD, and I did my research, and he checks all the boxes. I think a lot of thought has been put into this. I think he will be a great candidate. I personally, being a brand new board member and not being a part of this process, would like to abstain from this vote. Sure.
Thank you for letting us know. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any additional comments? All right, all in favor of approving Dr. Hooker as the sole finalist for the position of the CCSD Superintendent, if you would, raise your hands and say aye. Aye. Any opposed, the same signs? And any abstaining? Okay. All right. We have seven voting for or approving and 1 abstaining. So that motion carries. We'll move forward to item 11. Item 11, this is adjournment.
I move to adjourn.
I'll
Okay.
second.
All right, Dr. Maddox made a motion to adjourn. Ms. Gallagher.
Y'all, that's some record time.
Ms. Gallagher made the second. Seeing that there are no objections, we are adjourned at 6:36 p.m. Thank you for your time.